So let's get into solving one of the most common injury concerns within endurance performance, especially within our running community, and that is plantar fasciitis. A pain, an ache, a consistent irritation through the base of the foot, up into the heel bone. This is something that is epidemic in the endurance community. There are so many people, young and old, across with different levels of experience, all struggling with these types of symptoms. Today we're going to get getting into the why, the how, and then also how we can break this down and get past these types of symptoms and move past this injury for good. The current status quo has us focusing on the superficial treatments around this issue. The evidence shows that most people are still struggling with these types of issues weeks, months, years later, even though they are doing their stretches, they're doing their rehab exercises, because the conversation is in the wrong, they're looking at this in the wrong way. We are so heavily focused on the how, what this issue is. You know, the fact that we're dealing with a piece of tissue that runs from the toes to the heel bone. We're looking on that. We are isolating all of our focus on the foot itself. We're looking at the symptoms too heavily, and we're not looking at the problem. And this is what we're going to break down today, guys. And this is what I'm going to give you some real strong takeaways to dispel a lot of the misconceptions, the misdirections, the bull around some of the products and services and devices that we now see rife within our community. Because at the end of the day, guys, it always comes back down to the basics and the fundamentals and the foundations. And in terms of your training, you have all the power to solve these issues yourself. It's just understanding the why and the how. So let's look at plantar fasciitis. What is it? It's an irritation of this tissue that runs along the bottom of our foot, the bed of our foot. It's part of our spring mechanism. You know, whether we want to walk, run, hike, climb, whether we love to ride or do everything else that we want to do with our body, it is pretty much our first point of contact as we hit the ground. How much force we place through the ground will then obviously give us how much, and then depending on the speed, the power, the intensity that we're working at, will give us an equal amount of force coming off. How our body distributes our body weight, how our body applies force through the ground will be based upon our general levels of strength and conditioning, our general levels of skill in terms of our running mechanics, our walking mechanics. What is our injury history saying about us? Have we had previous injuries in the past? Are we coming into this higher level of activity? So if you're walking more than ever now, if you're running more than ever now, or if you come to a place where you've been running a long time and you've been walking a long time and now this has suddenly come up, where are the deficits? Where are the potential imbalances? This is where we want to be starting. So this analysis, going and seeing your physio, your physical therapist, having an understanding of where this issue is coming from and understanding that we are dealing with symptoms of plantar fasciitis, that is without doubt the first port of call. The conversation beyond this is where people get lost very, very quickly. This is where there's a lot of misdirection. There is a lot of kind of blinkered thinking, a blinkered approach. This is where I want to obviously help this conversation. We are dealing with an overtraining symptom. We are dealing with an issue where we are working, where you're seeing individuals who are placing incredible amounts of work through the feet, whether they're walking because of work, they're on their feet all day, whether they're out on the trails running, whether they're just out hiking. They're placing more and more volume and intensity through their feet, and their body's got to a place where they can no longer tolerate this type of work. There's lots of evidence, and there's some great infographics circulating over the last couple of years that showcase how much force and load is placed through the body as we run, as we walk and hike. It's multiples of body weight. We are placing extreme amounts of force and load through the body. The question is, how does your body tolerate that load and impact and force right now? I think you'll probably be very aware that after a point, your movement mechanics may be breaking down. You may be losing your running gait, that running technique that you started off with. You may be starting to lumber and labour at times when you're walking. You're starting to compensate. These are all indications that your body lacks the depth of strength and conditioning in its entirety, not just in one specific area. Current treatments will have you looking at the site of the issue, will have you treating it with massage, with shockwave therapy, with rehab exercises that are very simple and basic to start with, which is fantastic, but there's no progression. A lot of the time, a lot of the treatment that we're seeing as well is very much in a box. You're going into a treatment room, it's a sterile white environment, it's a kind of classic medical environment, and they're treating you as best as they can in that environment they're given. This is limited, this is blinkered. And to keep you in this environment for longer than 1 to 2 sessions is actually holding you back. That is the without a shadow of a doubt, the facts of the situation. What we want to be doing is building this conversation out from identifying what we're dealing with to then understanding that it's as an overtraining symptom where you're simply placing too much load through the foot, through the body, that the spring mechanism of your body, the foot, the Achilles, the calf, up into the shin, up into the quads and the hamstrings. It's all a spring mechanism that if we do not develop, and if you have clear weaknesses and areas of imbalance, you're simply going to be overloading that foot, and you're not getting enough strength and conditioning in that walking, running mechanism to support you. That is, in essence, what we're looking to do. So, number one, guys, you lack spring. You have lost your athletic potential, whether you've been training all the way up until this point, or you're coming into a sport, coming into this high level of training now, or you've come off the back of an injury. The number one thing we can be doing is making sure that you have an appropriate level of strength and conditioning across your body. Not just in the foot, not just in the calf, but all the way up that kinetic chain, up into your upper leg, up into your hip, up into your core, lower back, all the way up to the top of your head. Your body works in synergy with itself, with each other, with itself. It's not going to work in isolation. Just spot fixing your body does not work for anyone. It works in very short amounts of bursts of time where we're trying to build a little bit more strength in a certain area. But essentially, we've always got to come back to the functionality of the body. Lack of athletic potential, your ability to run, jump, hop, skip, load that leg like you did when you were 10, 15 years old, potentially you've lost that. An easy test right now would be to see where you are on this spectrum, where you have this reckless confidence, where you can jump off anything, you can land, you can hop, you can skip, you can produce, you can jump, you can broad jump your own body height, you could hop 3 times in a row on your left leg, just as well as you could on your right leg. You could land it with confidence, stick that landing for a couple of seconds. Or are you at the other end of the spectrum where you haven't jumped, hopped, skipped in decades? You are almost fearful of jumping off a low wall or jumping off a rock or jumping laterally or kind of adjusting your position on a trail. This fragility, this loss of athletic potential is exactly what we need to regain, because this is poor force production and reaction. Like, our bodies have lost the ability to absorb force. So our bodies have lost that level of conditioning required to carry ourselves as we walk and as we run, as we sprint, etc. This is what we've got to regain. So building out our chassis has to be number one. Building out our framework. Where are your obvious strengths and weaknesses? For us at Strength for Endurance, some of the biggest areas of weakness aren't in the calf. Now, that person's been struggling with, plantar fascial issues, calf issues, whatever. So they've been doing their rehab, but they're still struggling with symptoms, but they've never been questioned on their single leg strength, their hamstring strength, their glute strength, and their plyometric ability. Straight into those types of exercises, progressively building up their confidence in those areas. It allows your body to put more work into these other areas. On this note, guys, I have to really reinforce how important it is for you not to be kind of being led down the river with product, service, treatments. The quickest way out of these issues and injuries is by you putting work into your body. Nowhere along the line will surgical interventions and just random treatments once a week, or massage guns or icing or whatever, ever going to give you that long-term benefits that you're looking for. The ability to jump back out of bed in the morning, to go for a run thoughtlessly, it's all possible. But it's only ever going to be possible with you investing time and effort into your body. What I am talking about, guys, is the work and the effort that you're putting into potentially the calf raises you're doing, the massage you're currently doing, the stretches that you're currently doing. This needs to be widened into you developing more emphasis on your single leg strength, your glute strength, your hamstring strength, developing your confidence with plyometrics again, loading the body, getting your body back to a place where it has this balance again, but it has this athletic spring again. It's truly the answer to the plantar fascial issue, where it's simply an overtraining. Our bodies are incredible at compensating, at getting work done. You can literally get shot in the leg and you could still keep going. That is the phenomenal ability of the body. Your plantar fascial issues, you will get by. You will continue to get by. These are long-term issues that some people live with for years. But it's not fair because they're still being treated superficially. You're still looking at the site of the problem. You're still being dealt with. You're still being handed devices and little fascial fighters and socks and orthotics and shoes and massages that you're just simply going to overload within the next 2 or 3 runs that you do beyond this. Another point I want to make, guys, is your training load management. How you are now building out your rehabilitation process from this. It's not just about the exercises. I've included some areas of other areas that you need to start training. So there's going to be another list of exercises I need you doing. But it's also how we train, how we manage the overall load that we're placing through the body. A lot of people are coming into this where they've suddenly ramping up their intensity. They've ramped up the volume. They've got into running because they've found a new passion for it, a new love for it. Fantastic. Some people are coming off the back of an injury, so they've had long layoff potentially, and they're trying to ramp themselves back up to where they were. Others of you have been building for a long time, but now your body's come to a point where you just can't tolerate it anymore. Load management, how much training you're doing across the week, how much volume, how much time, how much intensity you're placing through the foot, through the lower body. It means a lot. You could be stuck in this vicious cycle if you, even if you're doing all the right exercises, you're having all the right conversations, you're doing everything that you're being told to do, but you're still doing too much. There's a level of ambiguity and individualization that comes with managing training load, because it's all based upon someone's individual lifestyle, their individual levels of strength and conditioning, their work, career. Some people spend 12 hours a day on their feet, and then they're expected to go for a 20k run of an evening or a morning, or they're trying to accumulate 100k of running a week, whatever. You have to be having quality conversations around load management, how you are building yourself up from 0 all the way back to 100k a week, whatever you want to do. How are you going to progressively build up your tolerance in that leg, in that foot, to get you back to where you want to be? So identifying what those key areas of weakness are in your body, identifying that we cannot just be focusing on the foot, the calf, the Achilles. We've got to be developing the whole leg, the whole lower body, your whole body in general. We've got to be developing all those other qualities that we talked about. We want to be looking at your whole training program, your training lifestyle, how your training program, a rehab program looks over the top of your current commute, work lifestyle, your family lifestyle. How much time are you spending on your feet? This all has to be quantified, and yet you have to be thinking about and making those little adjustments yourself as you move forward, as to actually, well, if I need to reduce things here so I can do more here, those conversations have to be there week in, week out as we build up this tolerance, because this is all we're looking to do, guys. You currently have a threshold that you are constantly going over the top of because you lack the strength and you're simply overtraining. What can we be doing to adjust that? Well, we need to have this overview look of your week, overview look of your month, and potentially the next couple of months. Again, this is why this kind of return to run 12-week protocol is such a popular method. But just managing training load alone is never going to be enough, because you're not working on the strength and conditioning side of things. What we want, and is what we do at Strength and Endurance, is we combine the two. We've got to be developing your strength and conditioning. We've got to be making sure that we're managing your training load and building that up appropriately. That doesn't mean it moves progressively, that every week we make improvements. Some weeks we may plateau and consolidate before we then build again, because we're simply not showing the standard of strength, standard of conditioning that we need within these areas. Meeting the demands of your sport, of your activity. I want to leave on this note, because if you want long-term resilience, you need to understand the demands that you're placing upon your body. Some of you have been doing calf raises for a long time. Some of you have been stretching for a long time, but there's no standards met. You're not meeting the demands of the trail that you want to run, the elevations that you want to descend and ascend, the decades of running that you have ahead of you. It's going to take an incredible amount of force and strength and deeper level of conditioning in your muscle tissues and your bones, your ligaments and tendons. What does that look like? This is, again, what we look to kind of individualize for everyone that we work with, but this needs to be signposted for you. And this is what we do. Again, we want to make sure that you have confidence in the exercise that you're performing, confidence in managing your training load, and confidence in the direction that you're headed. So guys, when it comes to plantar fasciitis, I want you to start thinking about the symptoms and start thinking about the problems at hand. Are you training effectively and progressively? And if not, let's have a conversation. Speak soon.